for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Chester. You know what I like to do on my show. I want to enlighten you. I want to inspire you. I want to empower you to become your best self. Now, Scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today we want to get you excited about our guest. The author today is Joseph Chan, and we're talking about his book, The Way I See It. Now, you know what I'm going to tell you to do. Go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Good morning, Joseph. Thank you so much for joining me here for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.
Hi, Dr. Angela.
Thank you so much for being on the show. Now, as is our tradition here, we always give our authors an opportunity to introduce themselves to perhaps the few people out there that may be unfamiliar with you or with your work. So my first question to you, of course, is, who is Joseph? What makes you you?
Who I am is a lifelong question. It evolved so much over the years. Starting from the beginning, I was born with 2 restrictive birth defects. In my upbringing, I was encouraged to hide them and measure up with other people. In the culture I grew up in, having a birth defect or a less than normal child is regarded as a shame. So I developed a feeling of inferiority and an embarrassment to the family.
And you know, you're saying a mouthful for especially a lot of our international listeners, because you're right, in a lot of cultures, if you are considered something other than a normal birth, then people ask, what has the mother done? What has the father done to bring this shame to the family? You are correct. And that's something that's even addressed in Scripture as well. So thank you so much for reminding everyone of that. Now, being an author, is that something that you've always wanted to do, or did you find that life simply presented it along your life's path?
My story is a journey of perseverance, finding the truths about life, love, and faith. So that is why I wanted to write the book for my children, grandchildren, friends, and whoever wants to read it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, I don't want to assume that that's why your book has the title, but let me ask you about that. The title of the book, The Way I See It. Why did you choose those words to tell us about your book?
One of the birth defects I have is blindness. I am almost totally blind right now. But there are 2 kinds of vision. One is, of course, eyesight vision. But the other one is mental vision or spiritual vision. And so because of my restricted eyesight, I have the other vision actually expanded. So that's part of my story too, and I want to leave it behind me in a book, documented.
Now, when you were putting the book together and you were thinking perhaps about the person who would read your book, Were you writing it in a way that is for someone who has a loved one who was born with a birth defect, or were you writing it for anyone who wanted to read a good story about someone who chooses to persevere, or a little bit of both?
It's all the above. This book is for people who are visually impaired or blind, or having any physical challenge. The challenge is really similar, I believe. And also parents who have a special needs child. I think what I've learned from life can be beneficial to other people.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, we understand that you were born with certain restrictions.
Right.
How have you managed to live with those restrictions? How were you able to overcome them and move through them or past them? I think that's something that most people, they would always say, I couldn't imagine living in a world if I were blind. I would just want to give up. But we see so many people that have special needs. They don't give up. They keep moving forward. So how did you manage to keep that uplifted spirit to keep moving forward?
As I have mentioned, I faced stigma about people with birth defects when I was a little child. My parents were responsible people. They did all they could, providing for the four of us, 4 sons my parents have. And I am grateful for my parents for a very good education. The rest is up to me. I cannot fault them for not knowing how to provide mental support to a special needs child. They tried to protect me from discrimination and encourage me to measure up with other people. But that only made it more stressful for me. And in the school I attended, the high school I attended high school in Hong Kong, by the way. That's where I grew up. Each grade is divided into 4 rooms, A, B, C, and D, by test scores. The idea of such a structure is that to encourage students in rooms C and D to work harder. That generates a general perception that students in rooms C and D are either not smart enough or not working hard enough. No matter how hard I tried, I was in C every year and D in the final year. And so I developed low self-esteem. The stress exacerbated my second birth defect, which is a muscular spasm, which I can get into this more description about that later. And so I had those attacks very often. And so that makes me very fearful about why I have these defects. But, deep down inside me, I know that I am better than what other people might think. And so I try hard to cope. To compensate my slow reading speed, I learned to read selectively, organize, plan ahead. In taking exams, I usually can finish 85 to 90% of the test within the given time. I learned to be accurate with what I can finish.
Absolutely.
And as I make progress, that created an enormous curiosity. How far can I go? And so I went pretty far, and that's a lot in my book, yes, about my experience.
Yes. Now, speaking of finding the right steps, how did you learn to develop your self-confidence? What things in particular did you do that helped you to gain the confidence that you needed to, continue to, as they say, walk tall and just be you?
That is a very good question. There are many factors. As I mentioned, I was the two birth defects make me feel inferior. But I know I can do better than what other people may think. That's a key factor inside me. I know I'm better than I could do better with skill, with learning discipline. So I try hard, and over a long period of time, I do learn those disciplines. And with disciplines, I can accomplish what I wanted to do, basically. I attended a Jesuit high school, and so I got exposure to God. I learned to pray, although I wasn't a very, I won't call myself a good Christian when I was young. And so also I've watched my parents. They are responsible people. They are hardworking people. They went through a lot too in their lives. During the Second World War, they have gone through many tragedies, and so I have benefited from their example in working hard. Also, I would say I've got exposure to classical music. At age 15, I've got the opportunity to learn to play the violin. I wasn't.
And we all know that music is definitely one of those ways that you are able to make that transition. That is beautiful. So we hear spiritually, word mindset, and getting involved in music and the arts. I love it. Joseph, it is time for us to go to break. But before we do, can you please remind everyone what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy? And, of course, how do we stay in contact with you?
Okay. The title of my book is The Way I See It, with a subtitle, A Candid Review of Lessons from Life So Far. I published the second edition last December. It is now available on Amazon.com. To stay in touch with me, the best way is to give me an email address. My email address is jklcsf@gmail.com.
We'll be back. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Chester. My guest today is Joseph Chan, and we are talking about his book, The Way I See It. And I really and truly like the title of this book because it is about the way that you see it as an individual. It starts with the mindset, folks. And if you want to be able to walk in that self-confidence, it starts with your mindset. And I'm so glad that Joseph reminded us of that before going to break. Now, there is a bit of a life change that happens, and it sounds like your wife passed away from cancer. How did that affect you? How were you able to move through that phase of your life? Did it affect you in any way as far as your needs were concerned?
Yes, my wife helped me a lot. She gave me a new self-image. Early when we met, she said this to me: "You are not handicapped, because if you are handicapped, then so is everybody else." She made me cry. She put me in equal footing with everybody. She was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer, and we tried everything. Nothing worked. But that was in that process, we got closer to each other, and love grew stronger. When she passed away, I learned a very important lesson in life, and that is, when someone you love died, the relationship doesn't end. It only changed form. 28 years after her passing, it is still enriching me. It was a love story, a sad story, but a beautiful love story. So I feel very fortunate to have our 13-year experience as husband and wife, not just once, but forever.
Mm-hmm. Oh, how beautiful. And you're right. I agree with you wholeheartedly with that statement. I've told many people that I know that in my understanding of when you love someone simply because they're not available to you in physical form doesn't mean that they aren't still with you and that they're not still available to you. When we have that quiet time or that alone time, that we can still spend time with them, if you will, even if it's just in our memories, even if it's just in thinking about them or being inspired by something that they've said, like you mentioned, or something that they've done, that they are always with us. You are so right there. Now, unfortunately, when a parent passes away, you have to think about your children. I know that my father passed away when I was a small child, and people wanted to make sure that I was okay. How did you find that friends and family rallied to help you with your children during this difficult time?
Fortunately, when Leanna passed away, my mom and her mom were still around, and so they gave us a lot of help. When Leanna was diagnosed with breast cancer, our daughter was 13. Our son, Kevin, was 6. We withheld Leanna's illness from our children for as long as possible. And so when she passed away, it hit them hard. In retrospect, we should have consulted with professional counselors about how to let children participate in such a difficult process. That would be better. But that's lesson learned after the fact. It's a valuable lesson. But our children turned out well. April, our daughter, went through several years of depression. She got better with professional help. She's recovered. Our son, Kevin, is athletic, fun-loving, popular guy. He did not give me too much challenge during his teenage years until the senior year in high school, when he told me he wanted to join the military. I made an agreement with him to finish college first and then join the military if he wants to. So he joined the ROTC program at UC Berkeley, where he met Marla. They were married in their senior year, and when they graduated, they joined the Army. They were both deployed to Iraq. They served well. Kevin left the military to pursue his MBA degree in the University of Washington. Marla is still serving in reserve part-time. She is now a lieutenant colonel.
That is a beautiful story. I love that. I love that. Well, for not only your son and your daughter-in-law, make sure that they hear that we say thank you for their service, and we are honored by their stepping up and choosing to represent and defend our great country. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. Now, as parents and simply as people, a part of our goal should be to learn lessons as we walk the path called life, that we should leave a better person than we started, right? So that we can share these lessons with others along the way, or at least that's what I believe. Are there any lessons that you have learned along the way? When you were talking about dealing with breast cancer, I had to deal with breast cancer myself, and you're right, having to tell it to your children and explain it to them, that's a delicate thing that you have to do there. You are so right. Lesson, anyone going through that is a lesson that we are sharing with you today. Have you picked up any other lessons along the way, that maybe one that really has stayed with you and that you usually share with others?
How about a couple? Yes, the most important lesson I've learned living with my birth defects is this: God does not create anything that is defective. Defectiveness is only a human point of view. The truth is that each one of us is given a unique life that is like no other. And because each life is unique, each one of us can make the world a better place in some ways that nobody else could. For using myself, my life as an example, had I not been visually impaired, I would not have written this book or have served on the board of the Lighthouse for the Blind, participated in a stem cell research to find a cure for eye disease, learned to play the violin, etc. And so all these purposes are leading to a different point of view of the why me question, which I have asked when I was young, not knowing why am I so unfortunate with all of these obstacles. So the answer to the why me question comes from the opposite direction. And that is the why not me question. Keep asking the why me question can sink a person into depression. If you can get to the why not me question, you may be able to find new purposes in your unique life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. And I know that my listeners are nodding their head because I have shared my story as well, and that was a question. Why not me? We are all the same in God's eyes, and imagine the story that we will have to share on the other side. And I think that that's what you're doing now. You are telling people that you are walking strong, just like everyone else. We all have something that we're going through, and God loves us all the same. I love it. I love it. Now, my last question for you, and we have about a minute left in the show, and that is, what are your aspirations, your dreams, your hopes for the future? Do you plan on writing any more books? When the world opens back up fully, will you be out and about sharing your encouraging words? What are your plans there?
I consider it's a calling of my life for me to address the human misperception of birth defects. And I will continue to do that. All in my retirement, I'm now retired. I'm working with nonprofit organizations, and all these organizations have something to do with the welfare of benefiting the welfare of children. Because of the difficulties I have experienced in my childhood, I'm very sensitive to the suffering of children. Children don't usually know how to seek help. And so through my work, I want to contribute something. Last year, during the COVID period, I helped my church to launch a preschool. One of the goals of the Help You Grow preschool is to help children develop self-confidence about their uniqueness through play. To those beyond my physical work, I send financial support to organizations that benefit children. And to those beyond my financial support, I send my prayers.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful. And what a lovely way to conclude my time with you. I know, listeners, that's something that you guys can put on your list, to volunteer, to be charitable, but if nothing else, at least cover them in prayer. I love it. Well, Joseph Chan, thank you so much for coming on and spending time with my listeners here today on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. But before I let you go, if you would please remind everyone one last time, what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy? And how do we stay in contact with you?
Title of my book is The Way I See It. Subtitle, A Candid Review of Lessons from Life So Far. It is available on Amazon.com now.
Thank you again for spending time with us here today. And listeners, thank you for spending time with us here as well. As always, may the Lord continue to shine his face upon you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Butchester. You know what I like to do on my show. I want to enlighten you. I want to inspire you. I want to empower you to become your best self. Now, Scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today we want to get you fired up about living. Our guest today is author Kay Smith, and we're talking about her book, Through Me to Me. Now, you know what I'm going to tell you to do? Go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Good morning, Kay. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.
Thank you. Good morning to you as well. I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you. Now, as is tradition here on the show, we always give our authors an opportunity to introduce themselves to perhaps those few folks out there that may be unfamiliar with you or your work. So, of course, first question to you, Kay, is what makes you you?
So I am a unique individual chosen by Christ. So that's first and foremost. And I am dedicated and committed to serving him and living for him. I am from the Midwest, Illinois, close to Chicago. And I have a son, one grown son, who is my heart. And grew up in the Midwest, completed school, college, have a master's degree. And that's pretty much about me. I work in the field of early care and learning, and I've been doing that for over 30 years, and I love it.
I like it, absolutely. I, too, have an adult son who is my heart, and it is absolutely, people think, oh, well, as they get, older, then it changes. Absolutely not. I mean, he has changed, I don't love him like a little kid, but he's still my heart. He's still my number one. So definitely, I hear what you're saying there. Now, being an author, is that something that you've always wanted to do, or did you find that life presented itself along in your path, and you said, yeah, I think I'll add that to the list of to-dos?
I never thought of being an author, and I never thought of writing as a profession. It was more as a tool for healing the situations that I was in and was going through. So just writing for my own healing and deliverance.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, the title of your book, Through Me to Me. I like the title. Quite interesting. How did you come about it?
Thank you. So there, like I stated, there were several personal issues I had the opportunity to experience over a long period of time. And I say opportunity because I do try to frame my thoughts from a position of strength instead of negativity, which is challenging, but God places tests and trials in our lives so we can grow and develop a much deeper relationship with him. And so after much self-reflection and research, I realized that at the root of everything, I was struggling with rejection. And once I pinpointed what I was dealing with, I actually became a different kind of fighter. So my prayers and thought processes began to change, and it was just one of many aha moments, so to speak. However, at the same time that I was struggling with a variety of issues, so was my son. And the Lord just spoke to me ever so gently saying, you can't help him if you don't deal with yourself. And so at that moment, I realized that I had to go through myself to get to me so I could support my son. And that's literally where the title came from, Through Me to Me.
Oh, I love it. I know, listeners, I am not the only one sitting there nodding my head going, oh, yes, that makes sense. Yes, yes, yes. That is so important that we take care of ourselves so we can take care of those we love. Oh, great moment right there. Now, when you were writing the book and actually, putting the pages together, how did you determine what you wanted to include versus what you would perhaps exclude or not really spend a lot of time on, but you get what I'm saying? Like, so many times we have to figure out, do I say this or do I say it this way? How did you make those determinations?
So pretty much my process in writing is just whatever words resonate with me, thoughts, scriptures, sermons, sometimes even dreams, and I will write down those terms and phrases on a slip of paper and put them into a container that I have. And if I can't develop it at that time, I go back and I just pull one out and I start to develop it at that time. And basically, the message of the book is how I chose which pieces that I wanted to go in there and what I really wanted people to get from it. And so that's how I came up with what needs to go in and what needs to be excluded, what was too heavy, what was too personal, and things like that. So that's pretty much how I decided that, and just lots of prayer and just being led by God as to what to put in there to help other people as well.
Absolutely. I like that. I like that process. How long did it take you to write the book? You know, for some people, they say, well, it took me 3 years to write the book because I never sat down and wrote, you know, a little bit every day. It was just, I wrote when I felt like writing. Other people will say, you know, all I did was write, so I was able to do it in a month. What was your process like? How long did it take you for that?
That's a great question. It literally has been a lifetime in the making. There are pieces in the book that I wrote when I was in my 20s, my 30s, my 40s, and 50s. I'm telling my age. But I am definitely a work in process. So it's just been a matter of going through whatever point that I was at in my life and just writing about it. So it literally has been a lifetime in the making. Never started out thinking it was a book. It was just a way to help myself.
Absolutely. I can understand that. You know what's so interesting is that for quite a few of the authors that I've interviewed, they too have said this was not supposed to be a book. It was just, you know, kind of a collection of my writings, but I shared it with someone or I told someone about it and they said this needs to be a book. And it ends up changing the lives of those who have read it. See, that is just amazing. I love that. I love it. Now, without telling us, you know, the ending, so to speak, without giving it all away, listeners, you know what I'm going to say. If you want to know the ending, you got to buy the book. But I do want to ask you, Kay, can you tell us a little bit about how did you fashion the stories? What is the book about?
So the book is actually a compilation of poetry, and it's broken down into 4 sections that deal with my thoughts and perspectives, etc., on struggles, love, influences, and growth. It's so easy for us to get stuck in our stuff. So just me being able to pen my issues and then kind of navigating through them to get to a better place is what I wanted to do. And at that point, I realized that I was just existing, and I really wanted to start living as God intended me to. So,
absolutely, I like that. And boy, did you hit the nail on the head. So many times we get stuck in our stuff. You know, it's I find that so many people just like telling the story. Do you know what I mean? Like they like to have a story and have themselves associated with that. I remember talking about the labels that we put on people when I speak about breast cancer. And it's like when someone has gone through all of their surgeries and all of those things, radiation and chemo and all of that, and you're now better, you're now cancer-free, allow that person to be cancer-free, right? Stop saying, well, how's your cancer? It's gone. You know, like don't make me have to stay there, you know, being a cancer patient, because now I walk in the victory. So you are so right. People want to stay stuck in their story. I hope that really resonated with someone because that is so true. Now, what was the hardest part or section to write in the book, if there was one? So I'm going to, let me rephrase. Two sides of the coin. Was there a hardest part or section to write? And then was there an easiest part or section to write?
This may actually sound odd, but of the 4 sections, struggles, love, influences, and growth, the hardest sections to write for me were the sections on love and growth, because I was so angry for so long that the anger just flowed out of me. But the flip side of that was a struggle. And so a friend challenged me to write from a different perspective using a positive twist. And let me tell you, Dr. Angela, no matter how hard I tried, my mind would not go there. I couldn't see a positive outcome at that point. All I saw was the pain. And it actually would be several years before I could even start to see that perspective. And the book came out in 2019. I probably started being able to make that leap to a more positive outlook probably around 2017. So it really hasn't been that long ago that I began to shed that skin. But these sections on struggle, that just kind of was the easiest to write because that's where I was, stuck in that pain.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that, because that's honest, that's real. There are so many people that do get stuck along the way, and I think everyone, if we're really honest with ourselves, everyone can raise their hand and say there's been a moment where we've been stuck in the mud or in the quicksand or off our path and just not going down the road that we know we're supposed to be on. So thank you for sharing that. Well, Kate, it is time for us to go to break. But before we do, can you please remind everyone, what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy, and how do we stay in contact with you?
The title of the book is Through Me to Me by K.T. Smith. You can get a copy at exlibris.com or barnesandnoble.com. I also have a link on my author page, and you can get to the author page at Peaceful Perspective 5 on my author page. And then my email is k25ts25@gmail.com.
Alrighty, listeners, and you know where you can get a copy of the book. We'll be back.
Hi everyone, Dr. Angela here. Did you know that Daily Spark is now on Facebook? That's right, you can visit with me at facebook.com/Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I want to know more about what you're thinking. I'd love to know, which interview did you find the most entertaining or the most informative? I want to talk to you, and I want you to be able to talk to me. Simply visit facebook.com/Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Butchester. My guest today is Kay Smith, and we're talking about her book, Through Me to Me. And I really like that title. Kay, my next question for you, and you kind of hinted at it before, and that is that aha moment. What was your aha moment that led you to go from writing from your own healing and deciding that, you know what, even though I have healed over this, there's someone else who needs to hear my story so that they too can heal?
I never really thought of myself as having a shine, so to speak, but one of my favorite poems is Our Deepest Fear by Marianne Williamson, and a part of it says, our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure, and it's our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. but we were all meant to shine. And so I realized that the root of rejection, it actually has a hand in so many areas of our lives, and I wanted to expose it in my life so I could start dealing with it. And so I began to share my journey to encourage others to look at their demons in the face and not live in a continuous state of fear, but in their shine. We all have a shine, so, we just need to seek out our purpose and begin to let God lead. So that was really my aha moment.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. I love that. And, it is so refreshing to hear other people talk about, walking in your purpose and living in that place that God has placed you. Even if we didn't think it was going to happen, even if it wasn't on our sheet or things to do, it is really nice to see when God is just amazing that way and allows us to do these things that we didn't realize we needed to do in the first place.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah.
Now, what do you want others to I want to say gain from having read the book, or let me say it this way. What is one of the takeaways that you want for someone who purchases a copy of the book? If they don't remember anything else, what should they take away from having read your book?
First and foremost, I now look at rejection in a different light. It's just redirection. It's just God telling me to go another route. So as I stated earlier, the book spans decades, and the message I really want others to gain is that being stuck inside your head or holding your own self hostage for months, years, and decades just waste so much valuable time. So I use the words dig, define, and deal. So just dig into the root causes of things, then define the word or phrase, and then deal with it. It took me years, really, to figure out that my issue was rejection because I had labeled it so many other things. But when I looked at the definitions of those words, they just weren't a fit. So once I did define it, I was ready to deal with it. And like I said, I look at rejection just as redirection and just I need to go another route.
I love that. Just look at rejection as redirection and take another route. That's awesome. That is awesome. That is definitely a tweetable moment. Everybody, please make sure that you remember that. That is amazing. Thank you, Kay. That is a powerful message to everyone. I love it. Now, for so many authors, when they're writing, their goal is to simply share a message. But others say, I was sharing a message and that was my goal, but I found that I was also ministering to myself, or, I was discovering things in my research, so I was teaching myself as I was writing to share with others. Have you learned anything about yourself during the process? But how were you able to kind of take those lessons that you learned then and apply them to your life now?
Well, I've actually learned several things about myself during this whole process, but I can say that one thing that shines brightest is that I am imperfect, I'm inadequate and incomplete. I can and probably more than likely will relapse or default to toxic thoughts, but God. And so realizing that no matter the multitudes of flaws I have, the mistakes I make, I can still have a real relationship with Christ, and that his love for me is just consistent and immutable, and he's there. And I just have to surrender and call on him. So just realizing that I am flawed, but that, he's there for me all the time. So I have to not just believe in him, but believe him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I like that. I like that. Now, even though you you have divided the book up into certain sections. I want to make sure that our listeners know exactly how they should read the book. Do you suggest that they do it section by section? Should they go cover to cover, like read it straight through? Do it more like a devotional? What's your suggestion? What's your suggestion there?
I've had people tell me they've done it several ways. One lady expressed to me that she uses it as a devotional, and so whatever scripture she's reading, if there are words in the scripture that match to one of the pieces, she would read that one for the day. I've had people read it from cover to cover, and I've also had people just open the book and whatever page they landed on, that's the page they read for that day. So it would actually be up to the reader if they want to deal with, the section on struggle first and start from the beginning, or if they want to start out with love, so it would be up to the reader. I know personally for me, when I read a book, I jump around as to which chapter really stands out to me with what I'm dealing with. So it will be up to the reader. I think either way that they chose to do it, they would hopefully gain something from the book.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for that clarification, because for the person who likes to do that too, kind of just jump around or pick out a word that applies to them for the day, knowing that it's okay to read it that way probably kind of gives you points, in that, yeah, great. It's not one of those books where I'm forced to read it cover to cover because I might miss something. So I like that. I like that because you never know what you're dealing with that day, or even why you read what you read sometimes. It could be something that one of your friends is going through, and you're able to share that passage with them because it can't stand alone. So I like it. I like it. Now, for many authors, their goal is to write a series of books. They're like, don't want to do this part-time. I am a full-time author. All I do is write. And then there are some that go, nope, Dr. Angela, I am one and done. So I want to ask, where do you think you fall in between there? Would you like to write more books, or do you think for now you're good with just this one?
Actually, it was spoken to me that I would write and publish many books. So continue to write and fulfill that call as God leads, and just stepping into my shine as He sees fit. I mean, that's where, I want to be, definitely in His will. But I am actually now in the final publishing stages of a second compilation of poetry as well. So I hope to have it completed within the next 6 to 8 weeks.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm so glad that I asked that question then. That is awesome. So that means that we will be able to hear more from you. Great. Thank you so much for that. Well, Kate, I have enjoyed my time with you, but I always like to ask this question of our authors when it comes to inspiring those who wish to kind of walk in the author footsteps as well. So for that person out there that's trying to decide, should I be an author? Should I step out of faith and really do this? Do you have any suggestions for them or any words of wisdom?
I would suggest that no matter what type of book you're writing, just write. I mean, write every day. A lot of times people will want to start writing their story or whatever it is from beginning to end. But some days it might come to you to write a section and you're not really sure where it will go in the book or where it will fit. But you'll have that section done. And then once you feel like you've exhausted, what you wanted to convey, then you would just put the sections together. So it doesn't have to go in order. But I literally just write every day, no matter what it is I'm thinking or feeling, I write. So I would just suggest to write. And don't worry about trying to do beginning to end. Sometimes you'll write the end first. So, however God gives it to you, just write.
I like that. Just write. And then you can figure out how it all pieces itself together later. I love it. I love it. Well, Kay Smith, thank you so much for coming on and sharing not only your words of wisdom, but about your book as well. I think that folks have enjoyed this time with you because we always love to hear authentic stories of encouragement, not just something that's a project for someone, but something that's really authentic and from the heart. So thank you so much. Before I let you go, though, please remind everyone, what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy? And, of course, how do we stay in contact with you?
The title of the book is Through Me to Me by K.T. Smith. You can get it at barnesandnoble.com, exlibris.com, or at my social media page at Peaceful Perspective and the number 5. There is a link where you can purchase the book. I will personally sign it for you and ship it to you. And then also my email is the letter K, 25, T as in Tom, S as in sorry, 25 at gmail.com.
Thank you again, Kay, for being here with us here on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.
You are welcome. Thank you so much for having me on your show, and it's a blessing to be able to share with you and your listeners, and may God continue to bless you abundantly as you shine and minister to His flock. I appreciate you.
Thank you. And listeners, thank you for spending time with us as well. We realize that you could have been anywhere, but you chose to spend this time here with us, and I appreciate your doing so. I hope that we have enlightened, inspired, and empowered you today. As always, may the Lord continue to shine His face upon you. May you receive His grace and His mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day.